Well, here we are with another interesting project. I don't do just one thing, I do a little bit of everything. Done well, but a lot different. This is an old sewing machine. I believe it belonged to my wife's grandmother. You can see the old Singer machine on the floor. This is the stand that's left. I took the top off. Going to try and make a couple different things out of it. I'm starting with a drop leaf table, using this as the legs. And so I've taken the old, whatever you call it, stand, and painted it. And I'm going to put a walnut top on it. And so I'm working on that walnut top. And I've cut these. This is going to be the main body of the table. I'll make the drop leaves later. And it's going to be 24 inches wide. The whole table will be 65 inches long with the drop leaves. This section, I believe, is like about 25. So it's about 24 by 25 when I get done cutting it. Don't know if you can see it, but this is a domino joiner, and so it cuts these slots in here for these little dominoes, and they go in to give it some strength to put it together. A lot of people just glue these up straight, but I like the idea of something else in here to hold them. So I'm going to be putting these dominoes in and gluing them up and gluing the whole thing up. So we'll get started on that. I take each piece. I use just the Titebond exterior interior glue, and I just take each piece, put a bead of glue on it, take my brush. I like these Rockler, whatever they're called. They're like rubber brush. You can wash them. If the glue starts to set up in them, it comes out. I like it a whole lot better than just the regular fiber brushes. Using your fingers easier, but I don't know if that's the most healthy thing in the world. So I use these. I take the biscuits. I'm using 3 biscuits in each one of these, and I'll put a little glue on each one. There's glue in each one of the biscuit holes. A little bit. Then I insert the biscuit. Get some squeeze out. Take the squeeze out. Spread it around a little bit. Use it on the next biscuit. Go on down the line like that. Again, whenever I've got some squeeze out, I'll spread it out, make sure I got everything covered, and glue the next biscuit. Go like that. Then I'll just take the glue, put a little on the end of each biscuit. Take my brush again, coat it. This one. I mark my pieces when I'm putting up. In this case I use some white pencil. This walnut works nice with an X mark, so I make sure I get things back together right. Pieces together, and I'll go on and do the same thing with this one. A little in each hole, down the line, put them together. Like I said, a lot of people and a lot of stuff you'll see they just glue stuff up, and it works. But I don't know. I've used dowels, I've used biscuits, I use these dominoes now. I just like something else in there to give it a little strength, and it helps to line everything up when you're putting it together. And I like that part. You can set these dominoes so that they're tighter, they're loose in the slot. I like them in there for like this, nice and tight. Get a little more glue on the domino. Spread it around a little. Go to our last piece, hopefully. Take my clamps, I'll probably just use two. We'll see here in a second. I might put a third one in. Always pretty, but it all comes together. Throw them up. So I got a little bit of squeeze out. I used to wipe this with water. I quit that. It tends to go in the wood. I just leave it, take a card scraper in a little while. When it sets up, scrape that off, and you get a lot nicer finish when you're done. So I take a look. I'm nice and flat on these clamps. If I was getting any kind of bowing or distortion in the wood, I'd put another clamp in on this side, down tight against this. But on this size, and this wood's really nice wood, nice straight grain wood. It's really come together well. So we'll leave this set up. While this is setting up, I'll cut the pieces for the drop leaves, and then we'll go from there. Good morning. I'm kind of skipped over a bunch of stuff here, but I'm going to catch up on what I've been doing. When we stopped the last time, I had glued up the center panel. I went ahead and glued up both of the drop leaves, and I put an edge on everything. It's kind of a rounded edge, if you can see it there, that'll go around the whole table. I've marked all my pieces with where they are going to be in relation to the other pieces. This is the top side of the hinge side of number 2, which is going to match up to this side of the main body. And because as you cut the different routing process is in here. Sometimes you do it on the bottom side, sometimes you do it on the top side. So to keep everything straight, I put tape on and mark them so that I know exactly where I'm at. I've already routed the drop leaf side of the main body of the table, and I do that on my router table, and I do it with this is my first go round with this, but this is a set of bits that's made especially for doing drop leaves. And so I've done the main part of with this bit here, which will be on the main body, so that there'll be this lip. This will be rounded out, and this piece will fold up against that. So I've done that, and I'm setting up my router with the next piece, which will do the drop leaves, and that piece then will marry up to the shape that I've cut on the main table. So I'm going to get started with that, and we'll come back. You cut this to where you've got about a 3/16 inch reveal, or fillet, I believe they call it, and then you just marry your other piece up to it. Then there's some fine tuning after that. So I'm going to get going and start on the this next section on the drop leaves, and when I get them cut, I'll show you where we're at. Okay, I've kind of skipped over some stuff here, but I've got the main body of the table and the two leaves. I've got all the routing done to make them join up. Now I'm going to put the hinges in, and you can see these are an offset hinge, not the same distance on either side, and where it pivots is actually under the body of the table so that the leaf part comes down correctly. So I've made a template that fits the hinge. I've marked the locations on the back side of the table, and I'm using just two-sided tape to hold the template in place. And then I've got a patterning bit. I don't know if you can see it here, but it's got a little ball bearing that rides just above the bit, and that'll go down in the pattern to cut my for my hinges, clean out the corners, and then I have to come back and do a recess within that cutout for where the hinge pivots. So I'm going to start to do that, and then I'll show you how it goes. Okay, I'm going to scan this from behind the camera. I've got the hinges in. Again, used template and the router. And there's one of the hinges. So the hinges are in. It's a two-step process. Like I said before, clean the edges up with a nice sharp chisel, and now I'll put a couple screws in. We'll see how the leaves fold, and if we have to make some adjustments, some routing or sanding to those leaves to make them fit better, we'll do that. Okay, so I'm behind the camera again, but I think this is a better shot. So I've got the leaves attached with just a couple of screws each because I wanted to see how they worked. And they say you usually have to make some adjustments, but I don't think I'm going to mess with them. I'm going to reach down there. Looks like they're working pretty good, and I'm kind of happy with them. I think I'm going to leave them alone. So I'm going to put the rest of the screws in, and then we'll talk about finishing. So I'm back working on the table today, and I've got it all put together as far as the tabletop haven't got it mounted to the base yet. But I'm using shellac as a finisher, and so I sanded the top, used a card scraper in some places to level some things out, and then I sanded it with 220 grit paper, and now I'm using shellac with a brush, and you can see the difference here. And I'll do, I don't know, I haven't used shellac for a long time, so at least 2 coats, probably 3. We'll see what it looks like, but so far I'm really pleased. So got a new brush specifically for this so that I wouldn't have any contamination. This goes on really nice, and so we'll get done here with the coat, see what it looks like. Good morning. I've got 2 coats of shellac on this. It's looking really nice. I think I know I'm going to put 1 more on. That may be enough. I've been putting the coats on. I've sanded in between, actually with a 600 grit paper. I tack cloth it off and apply another coat and then go on. So I'm going to put another coat on. Then I've got to check when it folds down what that's like, and go from there. Got the top all done as far as putting the shellac on. I put 1 coat on the bottom just to give it a little finish, and so now I'm going to turn it over and start to put the hardware on so that I can mount it to the base eventually. It's going to require a little bit of creative work because this is a steel base made from an old sewing machine, and I'm going to need some spacers to make it work with the hardware. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over to the table. You can see it really came out with a nice finish. The drop is working well, and when we look at the back side, like I said, I put 1 coat on just to give it a little finish, because when the leaves are down, you can see the back side of it. I just didn't want that bare wood look. You can see the 4 hinges here, and so the hardware that goes on here is this sliding piece. This piece will sit on the main part of the table. And these are what slides out to hold the leaf up. And so I got to figure out exactly where to mount those, and then because they stand proud of the bottom of the table, I'm going to have to put a spacer on the table itself, or on the legs, so that I can open and close these. So I'm going to get working on that. When I actually get to doing the stuff, got it all figured out, I'll come back to you. I put 1 coat of shellac on the bottom of this just so that when the table is folded, you can see the bottom, and I wanted some finish on it, so I put 1 coat on. Like we talked before, the hinges are a special hinge because one side is a little longer than the other, allows for the actual swivel point pivot of the hinge is set back on the main body of the table so that the drop leaf will come down correctly. So put those on. The drop leaves themselves, or the brackets, come around. I'm going to move this so you can see. That bracket pulls out, and that's what holds the table up. And but they're like 3/4 inch tall, so I had to add that piece in underneath, that walnut piece there underneath, so that it raised it high enough off the base of the old sewing machine table to allow those to function. So I put in a piece of 1 inch by 1.5 walnut,
I attached those with some number 8 screws using a countersink bit, and then the brackets themselves came with some short 1/2 inch screws that went on there, and you can see the back end of that is actually raised a little bit over the front end, so that when you extend that out it gives it some pressure upward to hold that leaf nice and steady. So I've got it all together. I'm going to turn it over, and we'll get a final look at this thing. Okay, so we've got the final table with one leaf down, one up, and just lift it up, pull that out, push them in, let them both down. Nice little drop leaf table. Walnut on top of a probably over 100-year-old sewing machine stand, so that was foot operated. Anyway, real nice project. Had a lot of fun with it.